Week 2 of the fantasy football season. Here's a few wide receivers I looked at off the wire this week. The first receiver, Quentin Johnston of the Los Angeles Chargers. So when Keenan Allen signing, a lot of people thought Quentin Johnston would be the odd man out. And also the rookie Trey Harris, drafted in the NFL draft this offseason. But Quentin Johnston, last season, he got off to a nice start. This season, a big start for him in week 1 in that ball game versus the Kansas City Chiefs, where he had a big game. 5 catches, 79 yards, and 2 touchdowns for Quentin Johnston. So they threw the football a whole lot, surprisingly, was this Los Angeles Charger team. The problem with Quentin Johnston's been drops throughout his career. He was a first-round pick, was Quentin Johnston, getting the opportunity last season. He had a couple games here and there, didn't do much. And now back on the radar with a big game versus a good defense in week 1 in Brazil. So week 2, a good matchup here at the Las Vegas Raiders. Monday night game as part of a doubleheader this week here. But Quentin Johnston, like I said, the route running ain't bad, but dropping passes and being aware at times has been a problem for Quentin Johnston. But if he can get that down with the ESP and the rapport looks like it's down with Justin Herbert, he could be someone that could be a breakout. So right now, while he's available in 92% of fantasy leagues, definitely someone to add this week. The next receiver, Cedric Tillman of the Cleveland Browns. We've seen Tillman have some games throughout his career, but never having any consistency. But now at least he's in an offense with Joe Flacco, who we know throws that football. He's got a gunslinging mentality, and he's going to get the ball to his starting receiver. So week 1, a good ball game versus Cincinnati. 5 catches, 52 yards, and a touchdown on 8 targets. So him and Judy had decent games. Week 2, a good matchup in terms of trailing early and often, and where Flacco's going to have to throw 35, 40 times at Baltimore, where Tillman, he might just work his way into volume. So Tillman, like I said, he's had some games throughout his career, never a breakout season, but he's obviously the number 2 wide receiver over there in Cleveland, where behind Jerry Jeudy, there's not much going. And David Njoku, we know he's a solid player, but he's at the tight end position. So Tillman, while he's out there in tons of leagues at 72%, and just some weeks he's going to get volume and a lot of targets on a roster where they're going to be losing and trailing a lot of games, I think he's a solid add this week. The next receiver, Hollywood Brown of the Kansas City Chiefs. Hollywood Brown, finally healthy, and he showed what he could do, especially after Xavier Worthy went down with obviously a dislocated shoulder in that ball game. So Worthy, he might try to play through it or not. We'll see what happens. But Hollywood Brown, regardless, was the number 2 coming to the season with Rashee Rice suspended. And in week 1, he had a big game, 10 catches, 99 yards on a whopping 16 targets. So obviously, Patrick Mahomes, he has confidence in Hollywood Brown, even though they haven't played much together in the short stint. Hollywood Brown's been over there in Kansas City. But like I said, anytime you see a guy get 16 targets and he catches 10 of them for 99 yards, that's a big number. And he's available right now as Hollywood Brown in tons of fantasy leagues at 75%. So if Worthy misses a lot of time, he's going to be easily the number 1 wide receiver in this offense. I know Travis Kelce could be the number 1 option, but Kelce, if he didn't have that long touchdown, it was a non-existent ball game for him as well. The next ad's his teammate Juju Smith-Schuster of the Kansas City Chiefs. So Juju, he has good ESP, good rapport with Mahomes in his first stint a few years ago. Then last season was back with the team, but injured majority of the season. He's out there in 99% of fantasy leagues, and he had a decent week 1 in PPR leagues, 5 catches, 55 yards. So like I said, Worthy with the dislocated shoulder, we'll see how much time he misses, or he puts, some type of device to keep that shoulder in place and play through it. But I think he might miss time is Worthy, where we're not getting many details on it as of now. So these 2 receivers, they're going to be in an offense, obviously, with Patrick Mahomes. Anytime you get major snaps in that offense, it's something to keep attention to and someone to head off the wire, even though Juju's been injury-prone throughout his career and his numbers have gone down over the last few seasons. The next receiver, Wan'Dale Robinson of the New York Giants. So Wan'Dale Robinson, I had him as a sleeper coming into the season, and he's still someone that could go out there, make plays, and catch the football, and a good underneath route runner and yard after catch player. So week 1, 6 catches, 55 yards versus the Commanders. It was for Wan'Dale Robinson. Malik Neighbors, he didn't have that great of a game. And this Giant team, they're going to be trailing a lot this season. Week 2 with Dallas, it's a matchup that's been tough for them over the last decade, where the Cowboys, for the most part, has had this New York Giant team number. This Cowboy offense could put points on the board. I know their defense isn't that good, and this could be a potential high-scoring game between 2 NFC East rivals. So Robinson out there in 80% of fantasy leagues, and he's a good yard after catch and underneath route runner that can help fantasy owners, I believe. Next receiver, Calvin Austin of the Pittsburgh Steelers. Calvin Austin, it was a nice debut for him with Aaron Rodgers, where the last couple seasons he had a couple games here and there. But Aaron Rodgers got him the football. He went out there, made plays. Rodgers knew how to use his yard after catch ability and his speed for Calvin Austin. He's available in tons of leagues at 98% is Calvin Austin after coming off the nice game, 4 catches, 70 yards and a touchdown. And we know Pittsburgh, they need a number 2 receiver to emerge in this offense behind DK Metcalf on the depth chart. And Calvin Austin exactly did that. I know it's 1 week, but someone to keep an eye on in deeper leagues and get. And week 2 is a decent matchup versus Seattle Seahawks. I think Austin definitely in those deep 12-team leagues and 14-team leagues. And add this week in the final receiver, Keyshawn Botte of the New England Patriots. So Botte, he went out there and he had a big game, 6 catches, 103 yards on 8 targets. So the ball was spread out in this one. Drake May, solid young quarterback, could spread the football out. And that's exactly what we saw in week 1. Diggs had a decent game. Demario Douglas found the end zone. Hunter Henry, he had an okay ball game. And then Keyshawn Botte, like I said, to get over 100 yards and 8 targets, it's nothing to overlook this week here. I know he's available in 99% of fantasy leagues. I know he don't have a track record, but Drake May, he could be that type of quarterback that spreads the football around to everyone on his roster. Time someone comes off a 100-yard game, like I said, it's something to keep an eye on. A couple seasons ago, Puka Nacua had a big week 1. Many people didn't think much of it, and then now look what he is, one of the better wide receivers in fantasy football. So Botte definitely someone to keep an eye on. And in deeper leagues, I would go out there and get, because like I said, New England needs playmakers. And for him to go out there week 1, put up a big number, definitely an ad this week. And week 2, a good matchup in Miami where their defense can't stop anyone. We saw the Colts go up and down the field all ball game versus them. So like I said, anytime you see someone go out there and put up a big number, over 100 yards in week 1, someone to pay attention to and add off the wire. So that's a few wide receivers I looked at off the wire for week 2 of the fantasy football season.